So this is a Lee Universal Case Expanding Die. And what happens is the top of this cartridge case needs to be flared out slightly so that this bullet will fit into this hole in a centered way without scraping the powder coat or shredding the lead or cutting into it at all. And so again, I can't get the camera back very far, but all I did off camera was screw this die into place. The instructions are not really detailed, but essentially inside here is a hollow tube. There's a large expander, which is what this one is, and a smaller expander, which is what's installed in it right now. And it can float inside this hollow tube. This part's threaded, it moves up and down to allow less or more space inside here for how far and how deep you want the expander to go in. Now the larger expander is for larger calibers, the smaller expander is for smaller calibers. The way I set this up is I screw it in so it's backed off. It is not touching the shell holder. It is backed off slightly from the shell holder. Let's see if I can roll this down just slightly. Maybe see better. I don't know. It's really tough. It's tight in here. So I back out my screw, my set screw on the top. Okay, so it's almost all the way out. You have to mess with it a little bit to figure out what size expander and how to put them in, and you can stack them different ways. I already have mine, so the smaller expander is in there and the point is pointing down, and I know that's good. But you got to be careful, because a slight adjustment on here makes a huge difference in the neck. Like, you can really smush it out so it looks like a trumpet on the end, and that's not what you want. So I leave it backed off a little bit so there's a small space between the shell holder and the bottom of the die. Then I run my case up carefully in case something's messed up or jammed in there. Then I run my threaded portion down, the knob. Now, believe it or not, I just hit the top of the case already, even with it backed off that much. But that's why I do it this way. Because if I had assumed that because this was back so far out that I had plenty of room in there, I would have just smushed the top of the case and turned it into a trumpet. So on the top, I have a line drawn in Sharpie, and I know I just hit my case. I back it out. You don't have to back it all the way out, but back it out so you have room. And then I just turn it in like a 1/16 of a turn. I turn it in very slightly, and slowly and carefully I run it back up again. And you can hear it engage and disengage as the top of the case gets squished in. The piece inside there goes inside and tapers it slightly, and then when you pull the case out, it pops back out. I'm going to do it again just so you can hear it. It's engaged, and now I'm going to pull it out, and it's going to become disengaged, and you're going to hear a little clink. Okay, that was the tapered part going into the case, getting stuck in it, squeezing it, squishing it, and then when I pull it out, clink, it comes off. I'm going to take a quick look. Yeah, I can tell looking at it it's not flared enough. But I'm going to show you how to actually measure it. So, give it a little more of a turn. And I'm eyeballing it, which is not the right way to do it. You want to take the bullet that you're going to use, take the case. When you start to adjust it and find the correct size, you want to put it in the top. Now what I'm showing you right here, this is the very beginning of being able to stick this bullet in this case. There's a slight flare there that wasn't there a minute ago. Okay, because now this fits. A minute ago it didn't fit. But I want it to sit slightly farther down so that just the edge of the bullet is starting to be able to go in the case mouth. That way I know it'll sit flush and straight as it gets pushed into the bullet seating die. So I'm going to go just a hair more, like maybe, I don't know, like a 60th of a turn. I mean, just the slightest little bit. And I'm going to run it up and see. Because like I said, a small adjustment out here makes a big adjustment in there. Okay, so I'm going to go a couple more degrees of a turn, you know. And if we think of this as the face of a clock, I maybe just moved it 3 or 4 minutes. Yeah, and it's just slightly more than it was. So another 5 minutes, let's say I just moved it. If we think of it like a clock face, I turned it another 5, and that's almost too much by what I'm looking at. But that's what I'm saying. See how it now goes past the gas check and goes in. Okay, you don't want it any more than that. That's probably actually a really good size flare. You can barely see a little bit of a flare, and when you put the bullet in it, of course I lost that one. You put the bullet in it, it sits right down in there. And that's what you want, because you want to be able to seat the bullet straight and not have it shave the lead off. So once you have the flare set where you want it, you go through, do every case in your batch, and then you're ready for the next step.